This is a day when the headline is not just one crisis, but a stress test. A tentative US-Iran agreement is being sold as a path away from war, but the real test is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, in Israel's political calculations, in Congress, and in the insurance markets that decide whether ships actually move. At the same time, a deadly B-52 crash in California, flood risk in Texas, an Ebola outbreak in eastern Congo, a major media deal, a blockbuster SpaceX market debut, and a politically charged World Cup match all point to the same broader theme. Institutions are trying to turn disruption into control, and in many cases, the public is being asked to trust systems before those systems have fully proved they can hold. Today is Tuesday, June 16, 2026. This is your daily news analysis, with the top stories that matter for politics, markets, public safety, and global risk. Let's start with the biggest story of the day, the tentative US-Iran deal. President Trump is presenting the preliminary agreement as a breakthrough, an end to direct hostilities, a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and a route back toward nuclear negotiations. That is the optimistic version. The more cautious version is that this may be less a finished peace deal than a pause with very high expectations attached to it. The facts we have so far are important but incomplete. Reporting from Axios says there are still unresolved questions around inspections, implementation, and the details of what Iran has actually agreed to do. Trump has said the deal guarantees Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon, but at this stage, that is a political claim more than a fully verifiable technical reality. That distinction matters. In diplomacy, words can calm markets for a few days. Verification keeps them calm for months. The Strait of Hormuz is the first practical test. This is one of the world's most important energy choke points, and the difference between open and safe is not semantic. A waterway can be declared open while ship crews remain nervous, insurers raise premiums, and energy buyers hedge against disruption. U.S. allies are reportedly discussing demining and escort operations to reassure commercial shipping. Trump, at the G7, has suggested that little help may be needed, because the strait is going to reopen. That gap between political confidence and operational risk is where investors should pay attention. If traffic resumes smoothly, oil risk premiums could fade. If there are delays, inspections, mines, threats, or even rumors of renewed attacks, the market may treat the reopening as fragile. Then there is Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has criticized the emerging deal as insufficient to block Iran's nuclear ambitions. A public rupture with Trump could undermine Netanyahu's long-standing argument that his relationship with the American right is a strategic asset. But silence could alienate Israeli hawks, who see any deal with Tehran as a concession. So Netanyahu faces a trap: oppose Trump too loudly and risk damaging a key alliance, accept the deal too quietly and risk appearing weak on Iran. In Washington, Republican critics are also pressing the administration for details. Senator Lindsey Graham and conservative commentators have raised concerns that the framework may resemble the kind of nuclear diplomacy Trump once denounced under the Obama administration. Their concern is not diplomacy in the abstract. It is leverage. Is Iran being forced into meaningful limits, or being rewarded for stopping a crisis it helped create? That is the central question. The next 24 to 48 hours will not be judged by statements from podiums. They will be judged by implementation. Does shipping resume through Hormuz? Does Israel hold back from unilateral military action? Does Congress receive details? Does Iran accept meaningful, verifiable limits? And do energy markets believe the risk has actually changed? Now, at home, another kind of institutional strain is building. California Governor Gavin Newsom said Monday that the Justice Department is investigating him and his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. He described the inquiry as politically motivated and connected it to his possible presidential ambitions. Associated Press reporting says Newsom accused the Trump administration of targeting him, while Axios reported that his office filed a Freedom of Information Act request seeking records tied to the alleged investigation. Here, the careful framing matters. Newsom has made the allegation. The public record at this point does not yet establish the full scope or basis of any federal inquiry. But politically, the story lands in an already charged environment, where many Americans believe federal law enforcement is being used as a political weapon, depending on which side is in power. That is corrosive even before the facts are fully known. The risk is that every investigation becomes interpreted first through partisan loyalty and only later through evidence. In Britain, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is moving in a different regulatory direction, announcing plans to bar children under 16 from major social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, and X. The government says it will also restrict harmful functions like live streaming and contact with strangers, while preserving access to messaging services. The interpretation here is straightforward. Governments are losing patience with platform self-regulation, especially around children. But implementation is the hard part. How do you verify age without creating new privacy risks? How do you enforce restrictions across video, gaming, messaging, and social features that blur together? And how long before teenagers find workarounds? The political message is simple: protect childhood. The technical execution is anything but. Public safety is also in focus after a deadly military aviation accident in California. A U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress crashed shortly after takeoff from Edwards Air Force Base on Monday, killing all 8 people aboard, according to military officials. The aircraft was on what the base described as a routine test mission. The B-52 is not just an old aircraft. It is a central piece of U.S. strategic planning, still expected to serve for years after multiple modernization programs. That makes this crash significant, beyond the immediate tragedy. Investigators will need to determine whether the cause involved aircraft systems, maintenance, the mission profile, human factors, or some combination. It is too early to know. And with military aviation, early assumptions are especially risky. What is clear is that test flights carry unique risks. They often involve new configurations, instrumentation, evaluation profiles, or operating conditions that differ from routine flights. That does not mean any one factor caused this crash. It means the investigation will have to be exceptionally precise. In Texas, Houston and parts of southeast Texas are facing a separate safety test from heavy rain and flood risk. Forecasts point to humid conditions, showers, thunderstorms, and possible flash flooding through the middle of the week. For residents and businesses, the practical watch points are rainfall totals, road closures, bayou levels, school disruptions, and transit delays. This is the kind of weather event that may not look dramatic in a national headline until it starts disrupting daily life. In flood-prone regions, the risk often compounds quickly: a slow-moving system, saturated ground, blocked drains, rising waterways, and then sudden road hazards. If you are in the affected area, this is one of those stories where official local guidance matters more than national summaries. There was also an immigration enforcement incident in Stafford Township, New Jersey. Police said a federal immigration agent was struck by a vehicle and fired his weapon while attempting to apprehend someone. ICE said agents were attempting a traffic stop tied to Friedrich Castillo Ormeno, described as a Peruvian immigrant, but authorities had not confirmed all key details, including who was driving or whether the target of the operation was in the vehicle. That uncertainty is central. The confirmed facts point to an armed enforcement encounter, a fleeing vehicle, and an agent who fired. The unanswered questions are about the chain of decisions that led there. Now let's turn to markets. The SpaceX public market debut has become one of the defining financial stories of the week. Reuters reported that SpaceX priced a record-setting initial public offering, raising tens of billions of dollars and placing the company among the most valuable listed firms in the world. Other market reports placed the valuation above $2 trillion after the debut, adding dramatically to Elon Musk's paper wealth. For investors, the key is to separate 3 things: the company, the story, and the stock. The company is extraordinary. SpaceX sits at the intersection of launch services, satellites, defense contracting, communications infrastructure, and potentially artificial intelligence infrastructure. That is a powerful strategic position. The story is even bigger. Investors are not just buying current revenue. They are buying the idea that SpaceX could become critical infrastructure for the next era of communications, defense, data, and space-based services. But the stock is the market's daily expression of that story. And newly public megacaps can be volatile. Execution risk, regulation, launch reliability, competition, government contracting cycles, and valuation discipline all matter. A first-week trading frenzy is not the same as a settled long-term judgment. Fox's agreement to acquire Roku for roughly $22 billion is another major market signal. This is not just a media company buying a streaming company. It is a bet that the next phase of media power lies in distribution, data, advertising technology, and the home screen. Content still matters, sports still matter, News still matters. But the company that controls the interface controls the customer relationship. Roku gives Fox a deeper position in connected television, at a time when traditional cable bundles continue to erode. For investors, the question is whether Fox can turn that distribution control into durable ad growth and platform economics, or whether it is paying a premium for a business that still faces intense competition from Amazon, Google, Apple, Samsung, and smart TV ecosystems. In Japan, the Bank of Japan raised its key policy rate to 1%, the highest level in roughly 3 decades. That is a major milestone in Japan's long exit from ultra-loose monetary policy. The fact is, the rate move was widely expected. The interpretation is more interesting. Japan is slowly becoming a normal rate economy again. Inflation pressure and yen weakness are forcing the central bank to move carefully but steadily. For global markets, this matters because Japanese capital is deeply connected to global bonds, currencies, and carry trades. Even small changes in Japan's rate outlook can ripple through foreign exchange markets and global liquidity. Sports, meanwhile, delivered its own mix of competition and politics. Iran opened its World Cup campaign with a 2-2 draw against New Zealand at SoFi Stadium near Los Angeles. On the field, Iran twice came from behind. Off the field, the story turned immediately political. Iran's coach said the team was ordered to leave the United States shortly after the match and return to its base in Tijuana, though he did not say who issued the order. That match captured the strange role of international sports in a geopolitical crisis. For 90 minutes, the game creates a shared spectacle. But it does not erase the conflict around it. For Iranian fans in Southern California, the team represented sport, identity, exile, and national crisis all at once. FIFA also closed a separate controversy involving Australian video review official Sean Evans, who was shown making a hand gesture that some viewers interpreted as a white supremacist sign before Germany's 7-1 win over Curaçao. Evans said it was an involuntary movement and denied any intended message or affiliation. FIFA said its disciplinary process found no breach. In the NBA, the Chicago Bulls are reportedly hiring Thiago Splitter as head coach. This is a less flashy move than some coaching hires, but it fits a familiar rebuilding logic: credibility, player development, and steadiness over celebrity. And in tennis, Serena and Venus Williams are expected to reunite in women's doubles at Wimbledon as wildcards, according to reports from Europe. If confirmed, that would be a major cultural and sporting moment, not just because of nostalgia, but because their doubles partnership remains one of the defining achievements in modern tennis. Finally, in public health, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is facing a serious Ebola outbreak. Authorities have reported 782 confirmed cases and 181 deaths. The outbreak is concentrated in Ituri province and involves the Bundibugyo virus, a rarer strain for which there is no approved vaccine or treatment, in the way there is for the Zaire strain associated with many previous Congo outbreaks. The medical facts are alarming. The operating environment may be even harder. Insecurity, displacement, mistrust, and limited surveillance can all make official numbers lag reality. Contact tracing, safe burials, and community outreach become more difficult when people are moving, frightened, or skeptical of authorities. This is a reminder that public health is never just biology. It is logistics, trust, security, and time. So what should we watch next? On Iran, watch for verifiable signs that the Strait of Hormuz is not only open, but commercially usable. Watch insurance rates, tanker movement, allied naval activity, and whether Iran and the United States release more details on inspections and nuclear limits. On Israel, watch the gap between rhetoric and action. Public criticism is one thing, military repositioning or covert activity would be another. On markets, watch whether SpaceX trading stabilizes after the IPO excitement, and whether Fox investors treat the Roku deal as strategic transformation or balance sheet risk. On Japan, watch the yen and global bond yields. The Bank of Japan's move may be gradual, but gradual does not mean irrelevant. On public safety, watch the B-52 investigation for early factual findings, not speculation. And in Houston, watch local flood alerts, not just national weather summaries. The closing takeaway is this: today's news is about fragile systems trying to prove they still work. Diplomacy is trying to outrun war. Markets are trying to price ambition without ignoring risk. Regulators are trying to catch up to technology. Public health teams are trying to contain disease amid instability. Sports are trying to stage global unity in a fractured world. The facts tell us what happened. The interpretation is that institutions are under pressure. The forward-looking scenario is that some of these systems may stabilize, but only if execution catches up with promises. And that is the investor-relevant lesson of the day. When leaders announce control, markets and citizens should ask for evidence. This analysis is for informational purposes only. It is not financial, medical, legal, or safety advice. For investment decisions, health risks, legal matters, weather emergencies, and public safety situations, consult qualified professionals and official authorities.